Nobody on my team is human. Behind the video you are watching, software handled almost every visible production job. One AI researched the topic, another shaped the script, others checked claims, designed scenes, generated images, produced the voice, assembled the video, and aligned the subtitles. But one human still chose the subject, set the rules, reviewed the result, and decided whether it was good enough to publish. That distinction is the whole story. This is not a company with no human responsibility. It is a company where one human has stopped doing every job personally. Hi, I am Leo. Welcome to Wiki for What? This is where we unpack the mind, machines, and hidden systems shaping the AI era through stories and models you can actually use. And today, the hidden system is the one that made this very video. Picture a workshop after closing time. The lights are still on, but there are no people at the benches. A researcher is gathering sources, a writer is revising a paragraph, a designer is sketching a scene, an editor is checking whether the audio and subtitles agree. None of them has a body. They are AI agents, language models given a role, instructions, tools, and a way to report what they did. That last part matters. An agent is not simply a chatbot with a more impressive name. A chatbot mainly answers. An agent is asked to pursue a result. It may inspect files, use tools, make changes, run checks, and return evidence. The model supplies judgment, but the surrounding workflow supplies the job description, the boundaries, and the definition of done. The easiest way to understand this new kind of company is as a construction site. The AI is not the building. It is not even one magic machine. It is a fleet of machines. Tokens are the fuel meter, workflows are the site plans, agents are the crews assigned to particular jobs, and the human owner is the person deciding what should be built, where the machines may operate, and what must be inspected before anyone calls the building finished. The fuel metaphor needs an honest boundary. A token is really a small unit used to represent information going into or coming out of a model. Many AI services count tokens when they measure usage and cost. So tokens are useful as a rough fuel gauge, but a fuel gauge is not a productivity score. An excavator can burn diesel while moving earth, or while spinning its tracks in mud. An agent can consume millions of tokens while solving a hard problem, or while repeatedly misunderstanding a bad instruction. More fuel means more activity. It does not automatically mean more value. That is why the strange new culture of celebrating enormous token use is both revealing and dangerous. Some companies have even used internal leaderboards to push AI coding adoption. Those leaderboards show a desire to encourage usage. They do not tell us whether the resulting work is correct, useful, or worth the cost. The number that matters is not tokens burned. It is verified output per unit of money, time, and human attention. One useful way to think about the move from a chatbot to a working AI team is in 4 steps. The first step is the helpful apprentice. You give one AI one task. It writes a page, fixes a bug, summarizes a document, or creates an image. You inspect the result and ask for changes. This is where many people first encounter what is loosely called vibe coding. You describe the behavior you want, let the model generate the code, and judge the result without inspecting every line. The experience can feel magical until the task becomes larger than the conversation. The AI fixes one bug and creates another. It forgets an earlier choice. It fills an ambiguous gap with a confident guess. You become a full-time supervisor, copying errors back into the chat and hoping the next answer does not undo the last one. The limitation is not only the intelligence of the model, the job itself has no structure. The second step is the workflow. Before asking for output, you define the path. What files may be changed? What sources count as evidence? What format must the answer use? Which checks have to pass? What happens when a required input is missing? Instead of saying, "Make me a website," you describe the pages, the data, the constraints, and the acceptance test. A good workflow is like a precision mold. The model still has room to judge, but it judges inside a shape. Repeated decisions become rules. Repeated procedures become tools. Quality checks become gates that cannot be waved away by a confident sentence. The human spends less time correcting individual pieces and more time improving the mold that produces them. This is also where the most important management lesson appears. Do not give every decision to the AI, and do not keep every decision for yourself. Give the agent decisions that can be bounded and checked. Keep the decisions that define taste, purpose, risk, and accountability. The art is deciding where that boundary belongs. The third step is concurrency. One agent no longer has to perform every job in a line. A researcher can gather sources while a separate agent inspects the existing project. After the script is approved, image workers can take different scenes while another worker prepares the cover. Parallel work is real, but it is not free magic. Two agents can edit the same file, rely on conflicting assumptions, or both believe the other one handled a missing task. So the human does not merely create more workers. The human creates reporting lines. Each worker gets a clear territory, a shared source of truth, and an explicit handoff. Work that depends on earlier decisions stays sequential. Work that is truly independent can run in parallel. The speed comes from understanding the dependency map, not from opening as many agents as possible. This episode is a good example. Research, drafting, fact-checking, and polishing should not all happen at once, because each stage depends on the stage before it. But once the visual structure is approved, scene images can be divided into separate groups. The workers share one design language, yet each owns different scenes. When they finish, the files, manifests, and validation results are checked on disk. A message saying done is not enough. The fourth step is the overnight machine. You hand a long job to the system and leave. That sounds like autonomy, but the real achievement is not that the AI works while you sleep. The achievement is that the workflow knows what to do when reality stops matching the happy path. What if one image fails? Retry, skip, or stop. What if two sources disagree? What if a file is missing? What if a tool reports success, but the output is empty? What if a publish step could create a public mistake? A reliable system needs exception policies, checkpoints, and actions that require human approval. Otherwise, one unanswered question at 3 in the morning can freeze the entire operation, or worse, let it continue in the wrong direction. I learned this from exactly that kind of failure. I once sent a video workflow into the night without a complete rule for a failed image. One scene went wrong. The system did not know whether to retry or continue, so it waited. By morning, only part of the job was finished. The expensive lesson was not that the AI was lazy, it was that my company charter had a missing clause. That is the deepest shift in this story. The scarce skill is moving upward. At the apprentice stage, you learn how to prompt. At the workflow stage, you learn how to specify. At the concurrency stage, you learn how to delegate and coordinate. At the overnight stage, you learn how to design decision rights, evidence, recovery, and accountability. You begin by operating a tool. You end by designing an institution. This does not make the human irrelevant. It makes the human role easier to see. Someone must decide which problem deserves to exist. Someone must choose the trade-offs the metrics cannot settle. Someone must notice when the technically correct output feels dishonest, ugly, unsafe, or pointless. And someone must own the consequences when the system is wrong. An AI agent can perform a role. It cannot absorb the owner's accountability. The business leverage can still be extraordinary. A person with a laptop can now coordinate research, writing, design, code, and production without hiring a traditional staff for every function. But the honest comparison is not one subscription versus a fixed number of salaries. Costs vary, agent mistakes create rework, and human review remains real labor. The advantage comes from turning repeatable knowledge work into a system, then using machines to run the repeatable parts more often and more consistently. That is why this matters beyond software. Any job made of documents, decisions, tools, and repeatable handoffs can be examined the same way. Which parts require human purpose and judgment? Which parts can be specified? Which parts can run independently? Which failures must stop the line? The future may not divide neatly between people who use AI and people who do not. It may divide between people who occasionally ask a machine for help and people who know how to build a dependable team of machines. So here is the question I keep turning over. If you could hire one AI role tomorrow, not a magic assistant, but a real job with boundaries and proof, which role would you define first, and what decision would you refuse to delegate? Pick one idea from this episode and keep exploring it. The next useful tool, book, or decision will make more sense now. I am Leo. See you in the next one.